This video has been made possible by Paradox Interactive. The development team would like to know how many of you play on console, so get involved and let yourself be heard by answering the poll by clicking the link in the description below. Last time we talked about Megacorporations as well as their internal mechanics, whether or not it's franchises, one of their main features, or their ability to generate enormous amounts of energy, consumer goods, etc. However, this is not the only thing that comes in the MegaCorp expansion. Some of the features are focused more on generalized empires, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Ecumenopolis, new Megastructures, a whole bunch of new Civics. We've got them all. Let's kick things off with the brand new Civics that come with the game, one of which is Byzantine Bureaucracy, one of my personal favorite. Byzantine Bureaucracy, as the name already implies, means that it's a labyrinth of bureaucratic behavior. Yes, that's right. There is an army of officials and functionaries who work tirelessly to keep the government running smoothly. Now, this translates to a reduction in usage of pop amenities. This means that the population will be a lot happier in the long run, and as well as a reduction in pop housing usage. That may not seem like a lot, the minus 10%, but once you have an Ecumenopolis up and running and one of the planets in question has over 100 pops, it means that you will need 10 less housing, which is rather significant. In addition, you can build the bureaucratic complex, which adds additional administrator jobs, which is a leader setup. It's very similar in technocracy in that sense, except it adds administrators instead of scientists. Now, with this being a relatively powerful civic, it means that you cannot have it combined with several other really powerful ones like priesthood or aristocratic elite or technocracy or merchant guilds. Merchant guilds, of course, also being really popular, and well, there is technocracy. What more can we say? I do highly recommend this one. Play around with it because it is very powerful and very, very fun. And then there is shared burdens, the ultimate in communism in space. That's right. Basically, everybody's equal to the extent of everybody, really. Every single strata uses the same amount of consumer goods in their upkeep, including the leaders all the way down to the workers. And this basically translates to having a stability increase by +5. Now, stability means that your workers will generate more resources over time, at least, and in addition, they will be happier in general. In addition, strata will demote a lot quicker, which means that if you have a leader pop that all of a sudden becomes jobless, they will turn into specialists very, very quickly. And that also goes, of course, for specialists that have to turn into workers. You have to be egalitarian, fanatic egalitarian, to be able to use this one. So it is gate kept pretty strongly, but it makes sense from a narrative point of view. And you cannot be xenophobe because shared burdens is for everyone, and it gets to the point where there is even a special advisor voice just for the workers.
The springs of cooperation flow most abundant. Those who need will receive. Those who make will make wonders.
Ah yes, the shared burden civic. And then there is merchant guilds. Very similar to technocracy as well as Byzantine bureaucracy, it generates a special job at the Capitol building. Merchants who will produce 2 unity, but that's not all. They also generate 8 trade value and 8 amenities, which means that if you start off with merchant guilds, you will have a very, very powerful pop available within your empire that will offset any amenity cost, and you will also gain a reasonable amount of energy coming from your trade value, which can of course be converted into consumer goods as well as unity as well. So it goes all ways. Merchant guilds is very, very powerful if you don't want to play as a mega corporation and don't want to deal with the ins and outs. You don't get the branch offices for instance, but you still want to have an enormous amount of trade value. And that's really fun. It's really cool. Once again, it does not mix with Byzantine bureaucracy or technocracy or exalted priesthood or aristocratic elite, any civic that generates special leaders for your leader strata, or at least in your capital building. So be aware of that. Make your pick because these are really, really powerful. The big 5, so to speak. But that is the civics. Let's dive into something that is incredibly powerful, incredibly good, and is one of the main features, in my opinion, of Megacorp, the Ecumenopolis. As mentioned before, there are a lot of features in Megacorp that are incredibly good that are not necessarily attached to the Megacorps themselves, and the Ecumenopolis is definitely one of them. Any empire that is not a machine or hive mind can build these, and they, like I said, they are very, very popular and very, very good, but you're going to need to jump through a couple of hoops in order to get them. First of all, you're going to need the anti-gravity engineering technology, which is in the engineering tech tree. It's usually a good idea to get the industry scientist ready for that and make sure that you can get to it relatively quickly. It costs a reasonable amount of science points, but still, anti-gravity engineering is the first hoop you will need to jump through in order to get the Ecumenopolis. Then you will need to make sure that you have, in fact, a Ascension perk available. Why do you need an Ascension perk? Well, if we go over towards our Unity tab and actually take a look at the Ascension perks themselves, we have one available, and as you can see, we have a special perk that is part of Megacorp called the Arcology Project. This will unlock the Arcology Project decision, which will eventually turn a planet into an Ecumenopolis, which will increase housing, resource production, as well as growth. You also unlock special Arcology districts, and those districts are the reason why Ecumenopoli are so incredibly popular. This also means that you will lose access to generator districts, mining districts, and agricultural districts on these planets. However, that doesn't really matter because you will have an entire array of planets to, well, use in order to get the resources that you need off of an arcology. Now, it's very important in the game because setting up an arcology before you get the perk, you probably will want to go and select a planet before you even get to the perk itself. Now, I've set up a little planet over here. It is called Procurement because, of course, it is. There it is. Procurement is rather special because not only is it in the middle of our empire, which means it has a strategic location, it also has a reasonable amount of planet size. It is a size 15 planet. However, in order to prepare a planet to become an Ecumenopolis, we are going to need to build as many city districts as we can. We cannot use the generator district, not the mineral district, or the agricultural district. Every single district on the planet will need to be a city district, and this can cost a significant amount of resources, but more importantly, it takes a lot of time. So investing in technologies that will increase your build speed on districts is generally a good idea. Now, once all of that stuff is done, you don't necessarily need to do that immediately, but once again, it is a good idea to, at the start of the game, to find a planet you want to turn into an Ecumenopolis, if you want to go down that route, to immediately start building as many city districts as you can. Sure, you're going to have a lot of jobs available on this planet. As you can see in this particular case, there are 24 jobs available and only 9 pops, which is of course a problem. However, it does not mean that this is going to be a problem in the long term, because as soon as we select the ability to get a Ecumenopolis, which is what we're going to do right now, we'll have the ability to create something special. We can go into our summary and then hit off a arcology project. It will cost us 20,000 minerals as well as 200 influence, and it takes 3,600 days to get it done. So that's 10 years of in-game time. Probably not, because my math is absolutely awful. Still, though, we can invest on top of the investment that we've made with the initial city districts to enact an Ecumenopolis, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. This is going to be one of your core planets within your empire, and as you can see, the Ecumenopolis is now queued. I also have a robot assembly bay here because of the additional pop growth, but still, the Ecumenopolis is going to be up and running soon. Let's jump forward in time and take a look at what the Ecumenopolis actually does, as well as its back mechanics. So we are very much further into the future, almost 100 years in fact, and as you can see, our empire has grown quite a lot. Here we are, we've got quite a lot of territory in our hands, almost half of the galaxy actually. Still though, that's not why we are here. We're here to take a look at the Ecumenopolis, specifically procurement, and as you can see, it has 138 pops on it, because we have encased this planet into a shell of city districts. Also bubbles in the background there. Still though, what does this all mean? Well, as you can see, all the districts have been replaced. Sure, we still have our city districts that are now residential arcologies. However, all of our other districts have been replaced with something different. First of all, we've got the best one in the game, which is the Foundry Arcology. Now, the Foundry Arcology does something really special. It generates jobs that generate alloys. Literally that. So every single one of these arcologies will generate 10 alloy creation jobs as well as 10 housing, which translates to 30 alloys per pop base job, which is incredible. It's an enormous amount of resources that we have, and I kind of understand that some of your other planets, so your capital world, may have a bunch of alloy generating plants on there, but they won't generate all that many unless you are in the fairly late game. In this particular case, this one over here generates 24. Now, in this particular case, you can max this one out by building a Ministry of Production. A Ministry of Production will generate an additional 15% for any alloy as well as consumer good generating job, which makes it incredibly powerful. Having an Ecumenopolis and building as many of these arcologies, it makes your economy boom, and you will have the ability to build every single ship or megastructure, which we'll talk about later, in the game, which is awesome. And then there is the industrial arcology. If you are a type of empire that has difficulty generating consumer goods, the industrial arcology is the way to go. Because the industrial arcology will, similarly to the foundry arcology, generate consumer goods. Twice as many consumer goods as the alloy one does, actually, at 60 consumer goods per arcology structure. Of course, it does have an upkeep of minerals of 60, so make sure that you have enough minerals in the bank for upkeep. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It is the industrial arcology powerhouse that will get you through the game if you don't want to spend all your trade value on consumer goods. So yeah. Then there is the leisure arcology, which is a great way of generating a lot of unity as well as society science, as well as amenities. So you can see right here, I got 2 of these buildings on this particular planet, and as you can see, the planet itself is already generating 227 unity, as well as a ton and ton of amenities, 232 in this case. This means the population will be extremely happy at all times, because, and that will then, you know, translates into higher stability, which will translate into higher production, and it's kind of a upswing in that one, because you will get an enormous amount of resources. As mentioned, the Ministry of Production is a must-have here. You can also use a galactic stock exchange to leverage the power of the residential arcologies, which we haven't actually talked about yet. Basically, the residential arcologies is a updated version of the city district that will generate a lot of consumer goods, trade value even, as well as amenities, and you can max that one out with the Galactic Stock Exchange. In addition, you can also use a synergetic forum to generate even more unity as well as trade value. Every single little bit counts, and the Ecumenopolis is one of the best ways to generate a lot of resources, specifically in the alloy and the consumer goods department, but please be aware that you will need to have an empire that can handle quite a lot of resource generation. Which brings us to the megastructures. Utopia introduced the concept of the megastructure, a massive building in space that will allow you to get a gargantuan amount of resources. And of course, in this particular game, I'm already in the process of building a Dyson sphere, the core of any empire when it comes to energy production, because let's be honest here, getting energy is pretty much one of the best ways to get resources within the game, but it doesn't mean that MegaCorp doesn't have its own slew of brand new megastructures. 5 of them, actually. The king of the castle is in fact the matter decompressor. The matter decompressor is relatively easy to build, but it does cost a lot of resources. If we quickly go ahead and select one of our construction ships, and I will be able to show you what the idea here is. As you can see, we can go over towards the build a megastructure item on the manage tab, and we can go down here to the matter decompressor. Now, the matter decompressor site costs 3,000 alloys, which is completely and utterly manageable, but it also costs a lot of influence, 300 of it to be exact. So make sure that you have a lot of influence in your late game. Using the will to power unity ambition is a good way to get a lot of that influence in order to get things going. But still, once the system is up and running, it will generate a lot of resources, specifically minerals in this particular case. When it's maxed out, it will generate 1,000 minerals for you to use on your empire, specifically on Ecumenopolis to churn out even more alloys. Yes, that's right, incredibly powerful, and probably should be one of your first ones in terms of megastructures to build. Now, once again, it's important that you have a black hole within your empire. So when you start up the game and you think by yourself, you know what, I'm going to build a one of these buildings within my empire, make sure that you have a black hole within your territory. It's very important to do so. Then there's, of course, some more, because of course there is more. There is, of course, also the joys of the Strategic Coordination Center. Now, the Strategic Coordination Center is once again one of the more expensive varieties of the megastructures. Basically, what it does is it's a special building in space that has a cost of around 40,000 alloys at a cost of 300 influence that will generate naval capacity, starbase capacity, defense platforms for every single of those star bases, as well as increase sublight speed on your ships, which is incredibly powerful. A maxed out Strategic Coordination Center will allow you to build plus 150 naval capacity, 6 additional star bases, 12 starbase platforms to go with those particular star bases, and increase your ship speed by 15%, which is a lot. Let's put it that way. Then there is the Mega Art installation, a very special yet also pretty structure in space that will set you back 300 influence. What it does is, at its maxed out version, generate plus 300 unity for you, as well as plus 15% amenities all over your empire, which is pretty powerful. Let's be honest here. It's not as good as, say, the Matter Decompressor or the Strategic Coordination Center, but still, it's pretty nice. And then finally, there is the Stellar Assembly. The Stellar Assembly is a 4-stage megastructure that is completely designed around improving immigration pull to your empire so that your pops will grow a lot quicker. And in addition, it will also increase other empires' opinion of you. If you want to be friends with everybody, the Interstellar Assembly is definitely the way to go. It costs 5,000 for its base alloy cost with 300 influence. Once again, please take Will to Power in your Unity ambitions, because you're going to need it to build all of these. And on top of that, around 45,000 alloys to build this thing. But hey, at plus 50 other empire opinion, plus 100% immigration pull, does mean that you can get quite a lot of pops, as well as very, very friendly neighbors. Now, a lot of these buildings do have an upkeep cost. For instance, the Matter Decompressor has minus 100 energy, but that's why the Dyson Sphere is a thing. The only building that it does not have a energy cost is the Interstellar Assembly. When maxed out, it will cost 30 consumer goods in order to upkeep. Now, finally, you will need to make sure that you have the following available. You need to make sure that you have a special ascension perk called the Galactic Wonders. You probably have already picked it before if you've played with Utopia, to unlock all of these buildings. In order to it basically turns the Galactic Wonders in the best Ascension perk in the game, because let's be honest here, you get access to all the megastructures, which is incredibly powerful and definitely something you want to work towards. But of course, you will need that megastructure building technology, so please keep an eye on that. The last feature, however, is also incredibly exciting. It is the Caravaneers. Now, if you're not playing with MegaCorp, you may have found yourselves in the company of a nomad species, a special fleet that roams the galaxy and goes on their merry way eventually. They do not colonize anything. Now, if you have MegaCorp, these nomads have been replaced with the Caravaneers. Let's go take a look at them, where they are. They are always hanging out in Taurus Compass in this wonderful little system over here, where they're just literally hanging out in their cool building and basically just trying to sell you stuff. Now, we can go and talk to them directly and basically say, hey there, Caravaneers, what can you do for us? Now, there is a bunch of things that you can do here. You can buy, for instance, Caravaneer coins. Caravan coins are their currency. They do not have energy or anything like that. You need to buy their currency in order to do anything. So, for instance, we can buy 12,000 Caravan coins, and we can spend those points in their shop. Yes, That's right, in their shop. And one of the more important things here is the ability to open a reliquary. Now, the reliquary will have the ability to give us all sorts of boons, very similar to the entities of the Shroud, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those boons are any good. Sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get the Galatron. Oh yes, the Galatron. But you can only purchase 5 in total, and the Galatron only has a 0.5% chance of dropping, so please be aware of that. But we can buy a reliquary for 6,194.21 caravan coins, because, of course, and yeah, nothing happens. The reliquary contains a gun of an unknown origin, and will apparently trigger, and with the trigger assembly removed. We get nothing. Absolutely nothing. Still though, there's a bunch of things that can come out of this. For instance, we can get an ancient trade route on our capital, which will give us an immense amount of additional trade value throughout our entire empire. Or we can get a ton of science, or we can get a bunch of consumer goods, or money, or, yes, the Galatron. Very, very interesting, very, very cool mechanic, and it basically is a box of stuff that you can pull out of. It's kind of cool. Then there is the slots. Yes, the one-armed bandit is in the game. You can pull the lever for 2,783.92 caravan coins. Pull the lever, you get nothing. Pull the lever, you get nothing. Pull that lever! We do not have enough coins because we got nothing. Yeah, pulling the lever is usually not a good idea. You can get some cool bonuses out of it, but I would not recommend doing it unless you have a excessive amount of money available. But that's not all. In addition, the Caravaneers will also send out these little fleets. Now, these little fleets are 3 different sub-factions of the Caravaneers, and basically what they do is they float around the galaxy and talk to you and be like, hey, you want to buy something off of us? And 90% of the time, it is pretty good. Sometimes they want a science ship and you can get some pops out of it. Sometimes they will sell you one of their ships. Sometimes they will sell you a building or something like that. And one of the buildings that you can get is the Numismatic Shrine, one of the most powerful buildings in the game. Yes, the Numismatic Shrine is awesome. Basically what it does is it give you merchants, which is the thing that we talked about earlier with the merchant guilds. But this particular building gives you priests and merchants, which is really, really fun and really, really powerful. If you can get the Numismatic Shrine, please get it. Other things that you can get from these guys are a special edicts, such as the Numismatic edict. We can quickly go down to it if we can find it, if I'm not being a complete num-num. There it is. Numismatic visualization, which decreases consumer goods by 5%, increases research speed, and gives you additional monthly energy credits. Very, very powerful. Is it worth it? Well, that's up in the air. In addition, it can give you special bonuses to some of your planets. You can get special technologies from them as well, which is incredibly powerful too. Our capital, for instance, right now is getting a special trade route, which we got from them. Or we can get bunk beds, which allows us to get more housing on our planets. It's very, very good. The traders are very, very powerful, very, very, very fun, and a great addition. If they float around your empire, make sure you say hello, because, well, you don't actually need to. They will come to your door. It basically works like this. They will hail you. If you like their deal, then you can agree to it. If you don't have much money, you can say, hey, could you come back later? And they'll come back later. Hopefully when you have enough money, or you'll just tell them to go away and go to the next empire, and they will float around the galaxy at large. And these are the additional features that come with Megacorp. If you want to get refreshed on what Megacorps do, here's a video for you to enjoy. Just click on the link above. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I want to thank Paradox Interactive for making this video possible, and if you haven't done so already, click the link in the description down below. It will take you to a poll where you can answer a question whether or not you play on console, as well as you, dear viewer. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the console community, because, well, in the end, we are all gamers, whether or not we're on console or PC, and it's really great to see you guys having fun with Stellaris. Also, thank you to my patrons. For those of you who want to watch more Stellaris content, feel free to click on one of the screens on your screen right now, because that sentence makes a lot of sense. But in the meantime, we're going to go and wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember the first rule of acquisition. Once you have their money, you never give it back.